A doctor saved a millionaire's life and vanished 25 years later. He finally found her. The year was 1998, and David Hargrave was living the life most could only dream of. A self-made millionaire by the age of 32. He had built a thriving real estate empire, but while his wealth gave him freedom, it also consumed him. David's health, mental and physical, deteriorated under the pressures of constant work, late nights, and little self-care. One fateful evening, David collapsed in his penthouse apartment, clutching his chest. By the time the ambulance arrived, his condition was critical. Rushed to the emergency room, he teetered on the edge of death. His heart had suffered massive damage, and only an exceptionally skilled doctor could save him. Enter Dr. Emily Carter. Emily was a young, cardiothoracic surgeon renowned for her dedication and precision. Despite her brilliance, she lived a humble life, far removed from the luxurious world of her patients. When David was brought in, she was already exhausted from a grueling 12-hour shift. Still, her duty came first. She led the team in an emergency surgery that lasted nearly 6 hours, refusing to give up on him despite the odds stacked against his survival. David awoke days later in the ICU, weak but alive. His gratitude toward the unknown surgeon who saved him was immense. Over the following weeks, he tried to track her down, but Emily had already left the hospital, transferring to another facility for reasons unknown. No one could provide him with more than a name. Life moved on, and so did David. The brush with death changed him. He began prioritizing his health and relationships over endless business deals. He gave generously to hospitals and medical charities, though his attempts to locate Dr. Emily Carter always ended in failure. She had seemingly disappeared without a trace. The search begins. Years passed, and David's gratitude turned into a quiet obsession. He owed his life to a woman he had never had the chance to thank. By 2023, David had retired from his business ventures and devoted himself to philanthropic efforts. With his resources, he hired private investigators to find her. The search was painstakingly slow. Emily Carter was a common name, and the years had erased many traces of her. Finally, after 2 years of searching, a breakthrough came. One investigator discovered that Emily had left her medical career in 2000 and moved to a small, rural town. She had taken up teaching at a local high school, focusing on biology and mentoring aspiring medical students. For reasons unknown, she had chosen a life far removed from the world of hospitals and high-pressure surgeries. David wasted no time. Armed with her address, he traveled to the quiet town, his heart racing with anticipation and nerves. What would he say to the woman who had saved him? The reunion. When David arrived at the modest school, he found Emily in the middle of a class, surrounded by eager teenagers as she explained the intricacies of the human heart. She was older now, her once dark hair streaked with gray, but her passion for teaching was unmistakable. David waited until the class ended before approaching her. "Dr. Carter," he said, his voice catching. She turned, puzzled at first, then surprised. "I haven't been called that in years. Do I know you?" David smiled. "You saved my life 25 years ago. I've been looking for you ever since." Emily's expression softened as recognition dawned. She remembered the young millionaire from her days in the though she had never expected to see him again. "David Hargrave," she said, "you look much better than the last time I saw you." The reason she vanished. Over coffee, Emily explained why she had left her career behind. The high-stakes nature of her work had taken its toll. Losing patients, no matter how skilled she was, had worn her down emotionally. After losing a young child during surgery, a case she had done everything to save, she knew she couldn't continue. She left the hospital, seeking a quieter, more fulfilling life in teaching. David listened intently, humbled by her story. "I've spent so many years wanting to thank you. You didn't just save my life, you gave me a second chance. I've been able to live, to love, to help others, all because of you." Emily smiled warmly. "That's all I ever wanted. Knowing I made a difference is thanks enough." But David wasn't satisfied with just words. A legacy of gratitude. Determined to honor Emily's selflessness, David offered to fund a state-of-the-art medical scholarship program in her name. It would support underprivileged students aspiring to become doctors, ensuring her legacy of saving lives would continue. At first, Emily resisted, hesitant to accept such a grand gesture. But David insisted, and she eventually agreed. The Dr. Emily Carter Scholarship Fund was launched a year later, transforming countless lives. Emily continued teaching, mentoring her students with even greater purpose. David remained a close friend, visiting often and supporting her endeavors. In the end, their reunion became a story of gratitude, redemption, and the ripple effect of a single act of kindness. The doctor who vanished had not only saved a life, but had inspired a legacy that would save countless more. Epilogue. By 2030, the scholarship program had produced dozens of doctors, many of whom came from disadvantaged backgrounds. Emily's quiet, humble life became an inspiration to all who knew her. David, now in his 60s, often reflected on how a chance encounter with death had brought such profound meaning to his life. And while he had once been a millionaire consumed by his fortune, he now found his true wealth in the relationships and lives touched by the woman who had saved him so many years ago.